Thanks, Mark. Last week, Kate Bramson reported in the Providence Journal that Curt Schilling and 3 other former executives of the failed 38Studios software company reached a $2.5 million settlement agreement in the lawsuit brought against them by the state. That suit, of course, was to recover as much as possible of the $75 million in loans made to the startup to get it to relocate to the Ocean State. Now that the judge hearing the case has agreed, Schilling and Company will be clear of all legal entanglements, and after legal fees, you and I will have just a bit over $2 million to add to the cash recovered to pay back principal and interest in the failed financing deal. Schilling's contribution, by the way, was the next to last stone unturned by the Commerce Corporation in its quest to get back the money they spent in our name. So here are the box scores so far. The total amount recouped will be just a shade over $45 million. But the attorneys have to get their due. Legal fees and other expenses consumed around $8.5 million, all of which leaves about $36.5 million to go towards the $75 million the legislature borrowed in 2010. You could say that so far it cost us nearly half the bonded proceeds just to try to help get a new venture started here in Rhode Island. If you did, you'd be pretty much alone, though. What it really cost the hard-working, tax-paying men and women of the Ocean State was a huge amount of trust in their elected officials. In retrospect, it is obvious that even if 38 Studios got a check for the full $75 million, it would not have been anywhere near enough to have set them up to compete against gaming industry giants the likes of World of Warcraft. What they did get was only around $47 million. We'll talk later about the shrinkage. We also heard repeatedly that these were moral obligation bonds. No problem, folks. Investors understand. We wouldn't have to pay them back at all, even if 38 Studios failed miserably, which it did, only days later. But we started paying just the same, despite the fact that we'd also paid for an insurance policy to hold us harmless from having to pay. Huh? Yeah, that cost some trust, too. Maybe the worst part of the whole dog and pony show was that no one in government ever took any responsibility for the screw-up. No one tried to explain that they thought they'd done the right thing, but only found out later, and to their horror, that they'd booted it. And if we had to hear about every bit of it almost every day for 4 years while the Attorney General, himself implicated in the initial legislative trickery, and the Superintendent of State Police, now hastily retired, conducted an exhaustive investigation. Those results just came in a month ago. They were, drumroll, there's nothing to see here, ladies and gentlemen. Trust us. Trust us? Don't bet on it. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, my advice is to vote no on the $20 million bond for Provport this November, unless you want to see all this happen to you all over again. Mark?